and welcome to IMP's AEW Adventures podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Help the network out by leaving us a 5-star review, give a donation directly through Red Circle, and become one of the amazing community by joining the Social Suplex Discord. Link is in the description. Order merch from all our shows over at shops-tees.com. Thank you to Dickie. Read the Social Suplex newsletter. Shout out to Trish and Tim as always, and to every person who's contributed so far. Listen to the other top-notch shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network, One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, All Things Elite, Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Trish and Sarah, Tunnel Talk, and Sam Brown's AEW Match Guide. My name is Matt Mayer, aka Imp, and this is your quick look back at the AEW week that was. 30 minutes of the week in my homeland of Glasgow, Scotland, and London, England, talking Dynamite and Collision in slightly truncated fashion because it's Forbidden Door week, baby. And it has been a little bit of a headache, me figuring out, okay, I need to get this show out by the end of Monday. Cool. The show doesn't finish airing until like 11:30. So it's like, well, I didn't go to this show. If I'd gone, it'd be even worse. So I'm recording this bright and early on a Monday morning, hoping I'll find time later to edit it and get it out. So I guess this is normally a very edited kind of show, but there's a chance that this week I just don't have the time. So we'll see how that goes. But my God, he's put out a 40-minute episode. Crazy. For me, it's more like, oh damn, I've put out an episode with my lizard noises and my breathing. So yeah, I normally cut all of that shit out. It's amazing how much time just dead air and breathing and my little noises kind of just fill up the time. A British boy with a dry mouth. It makes some noise. Anyway, we'll jump over. I'm going to go in order of the week that it happened. So we'll end with the cage and everything, but we're going to start off with AEW Dynamite from Glasgow, Scotland. And the first clip I'm going to play is of Will Ospreay and John Moxley as they come out for their face-to-face in the Hydro.
None of that vegan crap either. Get out of here. Slow down.
The Hydro packed and Bryan Danielson on commentary in a delightful surprise, and Willie the Billy out first to run off about how much better at drinking than the Yanks the UK is, before praying in thanks to Greg's and getting a sausage rolls chant. As a British person, was a lovely moment. In fact, it's the fact he got the sausage rolls chant. William did then get serious, tying his upcoming neck surgery into the dangerous cage match at Forbidden Door. If he's not going to be able to be the same Will Ospreay after his surgery, then this version is going to go out with a bang. Really set up the emotional hook for Forbidden Door. Did it really well. I mean, they still did an injury angle afterwards anyway. It's wrestling, you've got to pass off that heat. Like, if he's going to be gone for a while, got to pass that heat on to someone. Mox out with, as Will put it, Baldy and Geezer who needs a haircut. Brewing into a mini brawl as the Speed Boys ran on down, and then, no, knees! Out comes Hiroshi Tanahashi. Death Riders versus Jet Speed and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Shafia ejected pretty early for Cheeky Billy to make sure she left by him carrying her out himself. The triple twist and shout spot I really popped for. Double dive to the outside, called out the Bullet Club War Dogs, Kid Connors, Maloney, and Robbie X. I wrote in my notes, some bold lad. I went, oh yes, he's the guy where he's like, it's not Robbie Eagles, it's Robbie X. Oh no, Robbie X is not Robbie Eagles with a haircut. A certainly unique end as Ospreay came back out with a body bag, threatening to chuck it off the ramp, assuming it's Marina. That was enough of a distraction to let Tanahashi hit the high fly flow and win. But when they went to go get Shafir out of the body bag, out burst Darby Allin. I like just the overcomplicated thought process for this. It's like, oh, I've got an amazing trick. It's going to get them. We'll get the jump on them. The ops out to even the odds against the War Dogs. A big old brawl into the crowd. And, of course, Darby Allin called Schiavone as Darby dove from on high from the mezzanine to set up the chaos that was to come in the Forbidden Door main event. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. I love that Christian is still the same guy telling off the audience, but sometimes you need an asshole. It just so happens that he's my asshole. Adam told Christian to go find himself. So he did. He went away and looked within to find that he doesn't need to change anything. He's the perfect man. Just in terms of like little character switches, I feel like if you do this exact same flow of a story in the WWE world, if Christian would have come back, he's a babyface now, and now they're going to be babyfaces together. I just love the dynamic here. That Christian is still the same man that he's become. He's not just going to switch and just instead painting it as we're allies of convenience. Actually, we're getting that right now in WWE. I'm an idiot. The Charlotte Alexa Bliss stuff. We are actively getting that. They are allies of convenience, and this is so much better. It's only 2 weeks in, and I'm so much more into this. My point being, there is a point in comparison if you're watching both. And this one is already light years ahead, far more invested. Not a happy, bubbly reunion, but a reunion out of necessity. Nick and Kip for Christian, and FTR for Adam. Nick Wayne got injured in the reunion last week. His foot got broken, so he can't make Forbidden Door. But who can? And we go to a lab with a man injecting something into Luchasaurus. Great reaction. They're calling him Killswitch still, even though it feels like that was a Christian name given to him when he's Luchasaurus. But I understand that they're trying to keep him as the baddie, so him being Killswitch gets heat, so I guess that's why they're sticking with it. Oh, by the way, though, just want to go back and watch this segment. Just watch the way that Luchasaurus awkwardly shimmied out of his shoulder garb at the end of it. It's like he gets stuck on him and he turns into almost like a little awkward strip, like, oh, matron, oh, it's falling down. It's so strange. I loved it. But it's because he's trying to still seem tough afterwards. Like, he goes quite, like, small to shimmy out of it and then tries to, like, oh, rah! It's really funny. Right, talk about some actual wrestling. The tag team tournament final, FTR versus Brodido. A lot of time was given to this, like a quarter of the show to this one match. It was a show with only 3 matches, but when this one gets the full 30-minute time limit draw, it really gave the final of this tournament a big match feel, that these two really were the best. Of course, there's the, outside reason of the Hurt Syndicate aren't taking a pin, which is just, that sentiment just really ballooned after how the actual match at Forbidden Door went down. But here in this moment, I felt like it did add to the credence of these two teams being the best, them go to that 30-minute draw. It was almost in a way of, we're going to put FTR into the match, but we're going to elevate Brodido in the process, and it really just cemented Brodido as like a top team, which was necessary given what happened at the pay-per-view itself. A big boy, big fall, big back superplex set up the biggest kick-out pop off the bout. 25 minutes have elapsed, 5 minutes remain. It's like, oh, why are you telling me that then? Because this isn't New Japan. They don't just have those time limits on and you hear it regular. You only ever hear these countdowns when they're doing a time limit draw or they're toying about with the time limit draw. So in AEW, it's just code for this is going to be a draw, which just means that those final 5 minutes you're waiting for the countdown of the timer to just run out. There's always a feeling of, you could use this to swerve me. But I don't think they have yet. I think every time... I know it was MJF Hangman. Was it Hangman? It was MJF... Was it the original? I can't remember what it was. It was a really long match that went the distance. I want to say it's MJF Hangman, and then MJF just won right at the end of the time limit. So they have used it once, but most of the time you hear that time limit, it's like, oh, okay, they're going to a draw. Bandido's Orihara Moonsault landed on his feet was fucking beautiful. Back into the ring with 2 minutes remaining. This is awesome, with 1 minute left after Brody broke up a Shatter Machine pin. No, this is poor decision making from Danielson as FTR set up a table. It's like, you got 1 minute left, what are you doing? Only 30 seconds left and the lads seemed to not care as they just fought about ringside. Cash dove through the ropes to Tope right into the table. The match a 30-minute draw and we got our 3-team bout set for Forbidden Door. Ricochet's Glasgow trip. I guess this is like part one of 3 because the final part comes at Forbidden Door itself. MJF made a deal with the Bold Man to deal with Mark Briscoe. All good so far. He and the Agony Men tied up Briscoe backstage to let Maxwell threaten a Kentucky Fried Briscoe so he could lay down conditions for their now announced Forbidden Door match. Friedman used Hanger's history with arson against him, agreeing to everything, to the title being able to change hands via DQ, to Max not having to execute his contract to get the title match. Congratulations for being a hero after he got what he wanted. After the break, poor Ricochet attacked by the champion Page and pushed up against the wall in a lashing out of anger. Poor innocent little Ricochet. What's he ever done? What's he ever done? But we see playings out for both Ricochet and, of course, MJF and Hangman with their match at Forbidden Door. The main event of Dynamite, Mercedes Moné and Athena versus Toni Storm and Alex Windsor. No one's wearing a kilt. I was promised a barebacking. Nobody's wearing a kilt, Toni. As soon as she tagged in, Toni sniffed Mercedes and in a Scottish accent shouted, "You're just so delicious. Get in my belly!" Like Fat Bastard from Austin Powers with a full stomach pat as well. If anything, made all the better with one of the best wrestlers of the generation on commentary laughing his ass off. Later on, stopping a dive by just putting her hands right onto Mercedes' tits. It's like, oh, matron, mixed with genuine, mentally easy to trick and just not being herself since losing it all in character notes ahead of Moné's Forbidden Door 4-way title defense, of which she was kind of booked to more survive than run roughshot over as this amazing talented champion. We're at that point in her reign now. Makes sense to just shift to start to build the cracks a bit more properly, which makes sense as well after you've given her a visible loss that's on such a big stage at All In now. There would be cracks in her title defenses, but she still feels like a huge deal, huge champion. Like, it's not those type of cracks that make her look dumb or anything. It's like, oh no, she's up against genuinely great competition. We'll get to the 4-way. It's my favourite match from the show. We'll get to the 4-way later. But yes, this is certainly another line in the book of AEW's women becoming wonderfully weird. Athena spent the match yelling at Mercedes to get in order, but it was her miscommunication that swung the match after the ad break. Windsor! The only one not a champion, but she's the only one from the UK, so who takes the pin? Athena killing Storm for the night with a pile driver onto the steps, reps left the poor Norwich lass on her lonesome. Got the visible tap on TBS champion Mercedes, but in arguing with the ref Aubrey, she was fully oblivious to the Ring of Honor champion and AEW championship #1 contender poised up on the top rope, who flew with the O-face and stunned poor Windsor for the win. I thought the booking of this was perfect. You got the visible win for Windsor, you got Athena getting the pin overall, and she takes out the champion. So just all of the dynamics set up for Forbidden Door just wonderfully well. Really, really dug all that. And I did say it was going to be swift. We swiftly move on into Collision. So sticking in Glasgow, Scotland, there was only 3 matches on Dynamite, but that's because this was a big bulk taping and Glasgow, Scotland got all of their wrestling in Collision. So we'll jump on over to the proper wrestling show, starting with, shall I have a little bit of a Hechicero's entrance? Hechicero, Josh Alexander, Lance Archer and Rocky Romero versus Scorpio Sky, Top Flight and Hiromu Takahashi. Let's just jump on over to Collision.
Cabrones y cabrones y los pollos muy loco from Monterrey, Mexico. Yo soy Hechicero.
Ian, during that intro, did Don Callis say we like chicken?
And he said, I am Hechicero. Don Callis is broken Spanish aside. Nothing will put a damn...
Amazing camera work for this introduction here, just going right in on Don Callis' bald head as he announced his Mexican man. The Hydro loved Hechicero and Hiromu, that's too many H's. Full on booze with the Top Flight Martins did their fast-paced sequences to send Hechicero rolling out. We don't care that you're doing the flippy wrestling and the fast-paced that we really like. No. We are in love with Hechicero. That did carry over to Forbidden Door itself. Our good old Moe from Social Suplex saying that there was a whole section in the higher up that were just cheering Hechicero the entire time. It's the fact that the American fans were also giving him great reactions, and with the British fans more love for that technical wrestling side of stuff, it makes a lot of sense that really click with Hechicero. I honestly thought Skyflight's backstage promos were to make me boo them, so when I'm watching them here and they're kind of in the face roll, I was like, but I swear, is it just a culture thing? Like, is what they did backstage to Americans going to make them like them? But to me, it makes them go, they're dicks. I'm not meant to be cheering these guys, right? Fun enough opening tag. Hiromu hit the time bomb on poor Rocky for the win. Champion Kyle out afterwards to pose and chat shit. We then got a little hook promo. He keeps getting these unique... Because I thought they'd be leaning into the Batman thing. And then you see this week's return promo. It's like, oh, these are completely different styles. Certainly a unique return promo after last time's Batman Skylight. Stop motion action figure hook doing suplexes on another action figure hook. I mean, it was well done. It was well animated. I was paying attention the entire time. Afterwards, it's like, I mean, are we going to get these like completely different styles every single week? This was certainly a unique return promo. And next up was Megan Bain versus, in a nice surprise, Isla Dawn, Glasgow's own, with that wee surprise. Great pop, loving chance, but you aren't winning. It's AEW, so you get a tad of offense, like that's allowed. But eventually she was taking 3 power slam bumps in a row. Running powerbomb and the Glaswegian lassie was out of here. Sticking with the women, Willow Nightingale and Queen Aminata versus Sky Blue and Julia Hart. Bain was all confident up the ramp and right into Willow's joyful persona. Quite possibly the best polar opposite to tag against the Spooky Gals, Triangle of Madness. Queen Aminata is so good, and great to see her getting more and more time in this hot flow for AEW's women's division since All In. Tekla wanted to beat up Aminata. Bain and Ford back out to stop for the Willow save when Fear the Wrath, Harley Cameron and eventually Chris Statlander ahead of the next note of whatever's going on with them and the Death Riders. This also set up the multi-woman match at Forbidden Door on the kickoff pre-show. What's it called? 0 Hour. Got there. Got there eventually. With the backstage segment that came later in the show featuring Harley Cameron, Statlander and the Death Riders. Harley seems like a sound guy's nightmare. Like, I swear she makes the audio peak more than anyone. But it's comedically perfect. I love it. Don't change a thing. Like, I know the sound guy is doing his best. And maybe when you get Harley Cameron just to maybe practice the way she's going to be speaking just so you can get your sound levels right. Then I don't know. You always set it lower. You always set it for you to play it differently when you're actually doing the full recording. Like in the practice, you will never play it. You won't play it the same way. But Harley Cameron peaks. She will be at a normal volume, and then that comedic peak will just hit, and it'll make me laugh. But I can hear the audio peaks every time. It's hilarious. It's perfect. John Moxley got Statlander's 100 grand from the books. This week's canon: Shafir wants a friend but is too shy, and Wheeler's like, I was friends with a girl once, so Papa Moxley's just being a good dad. Last week we were told he was hot. This week he's a good dad. Is AEW putting Mox over too strong? I mean, the pay-per-view maybe brought him back down. I was like, oh, don't know if you should be doing that, Dad. Brings it down a little bit. Platinum Max Caster's Open Challenge. Glasgow were all in on the best wrestler alive. Kinda hilarious that this whole act has gotten so fully over. I can't understand the accent. I can't tell if you're actually doing it. I was saying Max to the crowd as they tried to do his chant. Like, oh, are you, Clem? Young Punks, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion Zack Sabre Jr. accepted the challenge, strolling on out for a wee showcase before Forbidden Door. That was a bit naughty, wasn't it, Nigel? I've made him way more cockney. But oi up, Nigel, it's me, Zack Sabre Jr. I'd be forgiven if you thought I was an American doing the accent, because I've learnt so hard into it. I'm not even from London. A stare down with Big Nige after a quick respectful handshake with a little tense holding on from McGuinness, when angry Anthony Bowens then came out to attack Caster and serve as Billy Gunn's return. And that takes us into Tomohiro Ishii versus Konosuke Takeshita. The reaction from the Hydro as they heard Takeshita's music and realised the match they were about to watch. It was a shift in the atmosphere and it was great to watch. Stiff elbows over and over as the crowd booed Don Callis. The G1 Climax 35 winner, worn and hurt, so right into a stiff Ishii match he goes. Glasgow on their feet on a Wednesday night, pretending to be a Saturday. Us Brits still love ourselves that style of the strong. Raging Fire for the win. Go have a nap, Konosuke. Shivani on commentary. I don't know if you have a Raging Fire in your arsenal or not. That's a bit private, Tony. Come on, mate. Big Bill versus Mark Andrews. Old Man Drews? Sometimes TNA was just inexplicably weird. They saw Mark Andrews and TNA like to give them their own names. Like Nigel McGuinness is called Desmond Wolfe, with the mental logic from Vince Russo that apparently those two things were the most common names in the UK. Absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. So, and then, yeah, Mark Andrews was one of them, where they changed him to Mandrews. It's like, oh, you're not getting over. He can't be. He was that high-flying guy, like, full of energy and full of skill and talent, and then they called him Mandrews. Like, oh, no. Oh, no. The UK loved Bill just as much as last time. When he comes out, it's just like being at the darts. We just all the singing and the chants and everything. The poor Welshman chokeslammed through 2 chairs after. Then Big Bill was out through the crowd like the most over of baby faces. Speaking of British people getting a good chant and then just beaten, Gates of Agony versus the grizzled young veterans. Ricochet on commentary as the polite young man that he is. Give me a second, I'm gonna go cheat real quick. More Englishmen on the UK cards to trick the Scots into cheering, yay, English people. Good trick, AEW. Good stuff, Tony. But this was a show of tall Americans beating up British people. So this was the latest run on that. And that takes us into the main event. No British people here to beat. Yeah, you have to choose an American. Paragon versus Young Bucks. Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly versus, already in the ring, Rod and Todd. Stupid sexy Flanders. I had a good laugh at the Dragon Screw leg whip chain. I love that silly wrestling physics logic like that. You're like, yeah, of course that's how it works. If someone's holding a leg and they get dragon leg whipped, that means they also dragon leg whip that person. It just makes sense. Don Callis up on the apron, so the Bucks tapping to the O'Reilly ankle lock was missed. Okada on out to Rainmaker them both and set our main event jobbers up for the win. Whose house? Stare down and dodging the Young Bucks jump with those fancy house call kicks. Silly Swerve turned his back on Kazu and got rightfully punished. Bigger punishment would come at Forbidden Door, which takes us into the main draw for this week, Forbidden Door, from the O2 in London, England, and announced 18,992 in a genuine sellout and wrestling attendance record for the O2. I think WWE's was, they set the record with like 17,500, and I know the days building up to it, they were getting really close. This was like 1,500 over it. That caught me off guard. It's like, oh, this number's not just a little bit over, this is like properly over. They've smashed it. So actually, before I jump over to Forbidden Door, let's talk about the 0 hour. Get through that quickly. It's a quick little rundown of our preview tags. Crew, Josh Alexander and Hechicero versus Paragon, El Desperado and Yuya Yamura. Quick admission, this was the first time I didn't watch a single minute of the G1 Climax in 10 years. Generally, haven't checked in since Wrestle Kingdom, so my knowledge is half a year out of date. But in my last opinions, I still like Yamura. I still like Despy. The O2 reacted well to Yuya's flow. Kyle after the match enthusiastic. This guy's dope as hell. Hechicero got the most love though. AEW crowds love that Magic Man and his pyrotechnics. Ishii with the post-match pop. Hilarious as he just strode out to the ring in absolutely no rush. Big pop for him doing a suplex onto Big Lance Archer. Speaking of great little pops, Michael Oku and Jet Speed versus Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. Oku in the O2. Michael O2. The crowd were as hyped as the man himself looked. An absolutely mental pounce bump, basically doing a shooting star, landing over the rope to the outside with no catch. A way faster and bigger spot match than I was expecting on the pre-show, but the lads were given the room to fly. As was the way this week, the UK folk got lovely moments but lost every time, so Oku took the pin. He took the pin here. Megan Bain, Julia Hart, Sky Blue and Tekla versus Willow Nightingale, Queen Aminata, Harley Cameron and Chris Statlander. AEW's multi-women fun times come to London. I swear everyone woman in this match feels over. All the different pairings too got their strong reactions. Aminato and Tekla continued to bubble as the two brawled up the entranceway. Important note for later. Poor Holly Cameron looked like she was in Bane trouble, but she took the mask off to surprise and escaped the powerbomb. Built into Willow fighting off the Spooky two, but constantly having the hot tag cut off. The final time with a Statlander miscommunication, and poor Harley did indeed eat the running powerbomb. No English person to pin? I can pin the Australian. A funny little backstage bit then came where the Bucks were promised that all changes tonight. It all changes. Proper entrance, nameplate, pyro, weapons hidden under the ring for them all, getting a backstage guy to get all of the things that they can find around here in London. We're talking thumbtack and broken glass, all that stuff. Tony Schiavone then introduced Tony Khan, Martha, and Owen's son OJ. Tony's happy to be in London and the O2. Martha's happy to be here and is rooting for Hangman Page. And that's where Tony Khan announced that the O2 attendance record for a wrestling show had been broken. The money's in the Khan coin bank now. AEW Trios Championships, the Ops versus Bullet Club War Dogs. Cool callback with Clark Connors being previously trained on the Shibata at the New Japan Pro Wrestling US Dojo. The Ops getting the win here, and more of a setup for what Gabe Kidd might do in the main event, which then takes us fully into the show, and we'll swing into Christian Cage and Adam Copeland versus Kip Sabian and Luchasaurus. Calling him Luchasaurus. I feel like it's going to be a matter of time. There's no point in me getting used to the kill switch name. I feel like it's a matter of time before he luchas out. Or he sources out. I'm assuming it's the dinosaur side that's more powerful than the lucha side. You can swing with it. He's been pure dinosaur so far. Why not go full lucha? Anyway, let's jump on over to the opening match of Forbidden Door.
Wait, poised to deliver a kill switch of his own. Christian reversing.
Who would have thought this would be the first match back as a team for Edge and Christian? The two old friends got their main player focus, but Killswitch and Kip got their own little tale that played out too. The Lucha Dinosaur, not exactly a controllable monster, and a stray strike to Kip's head even got the Englishman bleeding. Really, Luchasaurus only cared about getting Christian, and that left him open match-wise over and over. Lots of spear times for the spear fans out there. There just aren't enough spears in wrestling. A spear to Killswitch sent him crashing to the outside, and a fancy pop-up spear when Copeland ran back in for the win. The crowd were chanting, "Hey! Hey, Christian," to the tune of Hey Baby for the entire finishing stretch and post-match. The two old lads working the atmosphere right into their handshake though, like the pros that they are. The TNT Championship, Kyle Fletcher versus Hiromu Takahashi, these two had a great match. NJPW representatives out for the fun too. Walker joined in on the comms and a little shine of the Japanese commentary desk next to them too. The O2 with an applause after a suplex, back to your feet fighting spirit sequence. Good laugh at Don Callis also joining commentary for the bout, describing it like he's holding a child, before Fletcher hit an avalanche back suplex on poor Hiromu. Hiromu then later laughing off the stiff strikes from Kyle, less immune and more a bit crazy. The second half delivering shit I knew these two would be crazy enough to attempt. The ring apron suplex into a faceplant DDT looked brutally great. Proof of crazy when I say the power bomb to the outside afterwards was expected. The crowd were fully in on the tombstone reversals that swung us into Final Flow. Brainbuster for the win, but one great match. Honestly, the most fully I've enjoyed a Hiromu match in a long time. Been a while. He used to be, when he joined New Japan, he was right up there with my favourites with his amazing matches with Dragon Lee. He had some incredible matches, but as of late, he's kind of not really progressed anywhere as a character, so he kind of just is. It's the same problem that happened to Kushida when he was like a junior mainstay, and then became a big enough star where he could have moved upwards in some way. Apparently Kushida wanted to like turn heel and do something completely new and different, but he was just the ace of the junior division, and Hiromu's kind of just stayed at that place. They've tickled him going higher than that, and here against Kyle Fletcher, like I felt like he generally rose to the occasion. Like he was great, and Kyle Fletcher's just like a mid-match amazing mid-card machine right now. Right, then on to my favourite match of the show. The TBS Championship, Mercedes Moné versus Persephone versus Bozilla versus Alex Windsor. Bozilla coming out of this show as like the biggest star, the biggest talking point. At times during this match, being like, Bryan Danielson's just going to offer a contract himself. Like, just the way that he got so excited watching that. I bloody love this match. Like, Bozilla made, Windsor established, Persephone fucking solid to boot. Amazing championship guard parade for Mercedes. Didn't realise it was Chuck and TK out on as the buffers bringing them out. Each one of the guards holding one of her championships before she CEO danced on out. For the match itself, a quick lesson that you can't quickly roll up Big Bozilla, using the youngest German lass as the structure for the opening stretch before a tall person's greatest weakness, charging into the ring post. It's either that or a kick to the dick. They're the only two things that can bring down a giant. Genuinely an impressive showing for Bozilla, and kinda insane that she's only 21. Booked so well here too that as the big, powerful, slower one, she got the O2 chanting her name, when quite often that's a role that ends up you get a bit more of the boos and you get perceived as a bit less entertaining. No, here booked to absolute perfection. I think I'm just used to the WWE style where they have their big people wrestle so slow and boring. But then you come here. I mean, look what's happened to Jeff Cobb. Bloody Jeff Cobb got a "you can't wrestle" chant. Like, it's they've got a talented wrestler, but they're getting him to not really wrestle. They're not letting him use it. Look at Bozilla here. Looked like a genuine star. Really well booked match here. The other three brought the speed, and when Bozilla was down, it always led to a damn inventive quick sequence. Then Windsor's so impressive, I just completely keep forgetting that she's not been an AEW mainstay for years. Instead of the, 1 month she's been on telly? Lovely switch double crucifix roll over transition thing, which rolled Windsor and Persephone both into a statement maker. And a way for Windsor's double sharpshooter attempt soon after. Love Bozilla just stepping on Mercedes and Persephone's hands so neither of them could tap. Beer from Persephone grounded Windsor, chokeslam from Bozilla, then staged a surprisingly perfect moonsault onto the two women. Then the spot after had her taking a bloody reverse Rana. Someone didn't make the breakup afterwards, but who cares? I was all in at this point. It didn't matter, I'm all in, I'm into the flow and excitement. And that final flow was so quick and constantly swinging as each lass got her shine. Really, Mercedes took a back seat and just reversed into a pin to escape with a win, with the other three all coming out of this like any of them were deserving of a win. Persephone lifted Mercedes up high really impressively and reversed into a roll-up pin. Really loved this match. It was the most fun I had on the show. Mercedes coming out obviously just surviving with the championship and all three of the others elevated. What more can you ask for? Perfectly what it's out to do. Now on to I'll call it the more divisive one, but I don't seem to be more depending on your geolocation. The IWGP Heavyweight Championship, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Nigel McGuinness. British wrestling legend Big Nige met older British wrestling legend Johnny Saint at Heyyy London Park for a nice game of chess. Technical wrestling met with a loud chant of British wrestling. Johnny Saint at ringside to see the style he helped pioneer get showcased on the O2 stage, and the crowd were in for every beat, clapping after each sequence, getting behind Nigel for his twisting comebacks, fully paying attention, engaged in the flow. At least they were engaged, at least on the broadcast it felt that way, that they were engaged for the first half of the match. They needed a bit of a sing-song to get through the middle, but they were back awake for the end. Hey, I was making notes and drinking Magners all show, but I had the Social Suplex AEW spoiler chat up on the side. I saw what all you cretins were saying. I saw it. And if we're going to have a strike reversal, it's going to be absolutely nailed. Nigel faked his posing way, immediately clobbering with one hell of a lariat. A match for Danielson to absolutely geek over and a flash sunset pin win out of nowhere. The crowd up on their feet in applause afterwards. Shivani into the ring to make an announcement. The O2 were anticipating a Garcia turn, but nope, it was just to announce the attendance and quickly set us up for a Triangle of Madness attack on Aminato that sword them back out so Jamie Hayter could make her UK return. There's quite a bit of attempts to give us a little break to then set up the next thing, but the show still moved at that quicker pace that I've talked about New Japan Pro Wrestling's style a bit more, where the next match ends, you're watching them walk out, and then as they're still walking out, the next match graphic comes up and we start our entrances. There isn't really that much of a gap, but there's little reset points. At least attempts were made in the show to do little things like this, just have a little break in between the action before we moved on to the next thing. But I don't know if it was universal amongst the Americans, but any American I saw watching that IWGP match, I just saw comments in all the different chats just being like they were bored out of their mind with that match. And I definitely don't love the technical wrestling style as much as other British people, but after seeing the American reaction, I said last week, it's this match is for the British audience. This is a thing for us, and almost evidently seeing the two different reactions, that just screams even louder. So I wonder how many of that American side did really enjoy this match, because it felt like a moment for us on a show in our country, celebrating our wrestling history. I'm not surprised that the crowd responded to it so well. They definitely did dip in the middle and start to do a little bit of a sing-song though. Then we go on to the AEW Tag Team Championship, Hurt Syndicate versus FTR versus Brodido. An opening schmoz that eventually fell into tag rules order. We Want Brody amped up perfectly. The crowd eventually on their feet when they got their big two Bs standing off Brody and Bobby with a great big boy bash. Only getting more hype from there. A great pop for Lashley and Benjamin catching Wheeler. Even bigger one from the tope from King. Then erupting to their feet after Bandido's crazy moonsault press onto the pile of lads out ringside. When the main talking point of this match happened, three guys in New Japan Pro Wrestling tracksuits beat up Lashley and Shelton, and the immediate reaction of, they really aren't going to take a pin in this run. They thought it was almost just be like a kind of rumour type thing which might be quelled out, and no, it's all genuine. Masks off to reveal it's Ricochet and GOA, giving us our potential MJF tie-in to the whole Hurt Syndicate thing. But also Ricochet does have history, and Ricochet afterwards showed the video of the Hurt Syndicate saying no to him 8 months ago. As in, this is my reason why I did this. I screwed you over. You screwed me over, I screwed you over. But also there is the MJF tie-in for the possible Lashley MJF match. But it's also a way way to get the belts off of the Hurt Syndicate without having them involved in the finish. Brodido with their amazing finisher, winning in what was surely meant to be broken up. Ref even gave them a second chance and they still fucked it. But who cares? Brodido champions. Fuck it. A win's a win. Right. There's definitely a sentiment amongst the AEW fans that era of former WWE guys who don't really want to be taking pins and stuff to protect themselves. There's a very strong sentiment that they don't really want those people there anymore. And the report's coming out of such a great atmosphere backstage of everybody working like that. But the thing that really doesn't help for me is you saw this with the trying to find a way to get the belts off of the Hurt Syndicate without them taking a pin. Then we go to a Kazuchika Okada versus Swerve Strickland. You see a guy who has got his spot because he's perfectly fine to take the pin and put somebody else over to elevate everybody. So it gets contrasted. It gets contrasted against the next match and arguably comes across even worse. Like the negative sentiments around the Hurt Syndicate, I feel like are gonna balloon after Forbidden Door. Like, yeah, I wouldn't say they were bubbling, but still the act is over. I feel like how this went down, you might start to see a bit more actual resentment on the shows. And for me, part of it is because the match that followed, you saw somebody selfishly put another lad over, which doesn't help. It doesn't help the perception. But we'll jump over to that other match. Swerve's house in the middle of our street. I'm assuming Madness didn't make it into Murica. So, search Madness, our house. If that's not bad enough, Strickland was weakened with a bit of the knee owie for Okada to focus on. But gasp, switching wrist control from Okada to Swerve in another minor touch of the show that had Danielson salivating. I was just watching the flow of this and thinking, if any match deserved a timeout finish, just the way that this had built to that, where they both felt so even in that final few minutes. Such a well done simmering bubble. Felt the heat, but was more than ready for more. like, please sir, give me some more. Like the first leg of a Champions League match. Almost like this entire thing was to set up another one to come later on. I just want to think about it. When I left this match, yes, they did the whole injury angle as well. But I was left with that feeling that Omega Danielson 1 left me with, which was like, oh, this was the simmering before the proper match. Proper match that we're never going to get with that one. But here, it's almost set up for us to definitely get it later once Swerve's all healed up and had his rest. Swerve stomped nailed, but me knee. Plenty of back and forth, but the end came in such a nice and simple way. Working on the knee, dropping the man onto the top turnbuckle, but Swerve was able to fight back in, only for the house call dodge to have Swerve land on his owie knee and give a second of a moment for Okada to seize upon and finally hit the Rainmaker for a clean win. And just how much a clean win does for Okada in this reign. Just really just cement him as this dominant champion. But in the post-match came a huge surprise, Wardlow returning to make sure Prince Nana was also taken out as he joined the Don Callis family. A wee tense stare down as we teased that eventual Takeshita face turn. The crowd popped huge when Takeshita's music hit, when the whole Don Callis family was just posing at ringside under Don's brrrr, just echoing out throughout the arena. Then Takeshita's music hit and the crowd popped huge, maybe again expecting something to happen, some form of segment or something. Just like after the IWGP match, where they were just expecting Garcia to maybe turn, because why else are you doing a Tony Schiavone talking to him in the ring bit? Like, no, it was just, a little stare down, little pose, little tease, or just moving on. And moving on to the AEW Women's Championship. I wasn't expecting this to be like a gauge for European history knowledge. There's a few times where I've discovered American people don't know a thing, and it's one of those times where things where I'm just like, you would have assumed they taught that. Like, nope. Toni Storm in the makeup of Marie Antoinette, and off came her head. I can't remember the rest of the song, that's a bit that I remember. It appears that vital part of French history is not a part of the US educational system. There's as I said, I had the social suplex chat up at the side. Rich Latter is not escaping my show. Loads of people didn't know, and the European people and people who've done European history just jumping on in. I have to remind myself, history started in 1776. I have to remind myself that. Things didn't happen before then. Things didn't happen. The match itself not wasting even a single second to address the ringside Billy problem. As soon as the action spilled out, Tony dropped the young'un with a pile driver. A really tough spot on the card, which if anything tells me how well they did to keep me invested and not mentally drifting. I was also on my fourth Magnus. By this point, there are a lot of things here which should have led into me mentally drifting, but they didn't. My attention was properly there. Hilarious to think the whole guillotine line in a bit with Billy threatening the chair went right over the heads of anyone who doesn't know their French history. However, in the French Revolution, a Japanese woman with great live show aura didn't make the save. Mina Shirakawa on out to stop Billy and beat her to the back before our lovely flash finish. I won't beat it, but the yo-face was caught into a chicken wing and Athena surprisingly tapped. Quite a few people pissed off. An amazing tweet was shared, because I'm not on Twitter. I only see things that get shared with me. So if you do see something that It's like, oh, invite like that. Yeah, I won't have seen it because I'm not on Twitter. Somebody smashed their TV screen after Athena lost. You know what? Maybe AEW is too real. Maybe some people should stick with WWE. Maybe this more realistic, better told thing. Maybe not everyone can handle it. There are quite a few people who generally wanted Athena to be winning this one, but that screams that's kind of like in that bubble of liking a wrestler, which is good. You invest in that wrestler, and they've convinced you that, oh, if she were to win, we could go down this road, and that means the build's done its job. Absolutely nailed. But, you know, outside of this temporary bubble, as we're moving on from one story to the next, no. Just no. Toni Storm's always the winner here, as they continue establishing her as the figurehead for the women's division, which is building up really nicely under her at the moment. So obviously, I don't know who's going to be her next immediate challenger, but they've got a really well simmering division under her. Everybody's getting over. Then to the main event, Hangman Page versus MJF. Yeah, that's right, I'm leaning into the kayfabe main event thing. I swear MJF is the first man to use a wrist lock up on Brett's rope to mime a hand job. Immediate karma as Hangman fought back and mimed face fucking him. It's like, well, we're not in the main event, but AEW, certainly not for kids. Like I said last week, wrestling is hella gay, and this is the lights on match. What are they going to do when the lights off? The cheekiness subsided as we got the two trying to show each other who the better wrestler is. MJF even reversing the buckshot into a Salt of the Earth submission really swiftly, but it didn't take much for Max to grow frustrated and grab a table. Wrestling table rules fully in force. You set it up, you go through it. So yes, Hangman Page eventually hit a deadeye onto Maxwell through said table. MJF yelling at Danielson that he fucking sucks so that hangers could blade and drip with the drippy blood. Tombstone onto the table rubbles, back into the ring for more violence, and great on the O2 to chant, "You deserve it," as Max emerged wearing a crimson mask. MJF too bloody and sweaty to nail the Tombstone transitions, but the constant pin reversals into an eventual Deadeye woke the O2 right up. There's a little sequence in there as well where there's like a little bridge like right before they go to that sequence into the Deadeye, and it's just, I just felt it. It's like, oh yes. It worked so well. Inviting Hangman to use the diamond ring and get himself disqualified, trying to use the champion's need to be that hero against him, but like all villains, completely failing, and onto sending the referee down instead. Kick to the dick and heat seeker for the win. Hangman's foot on the bottom rope even before the two, but referee Bryce counted the 3 and immediately went unconscious. Like, very hokey, but the crowd fully bought into Page after it, with MJF successfully pulling off every trick in the book, only for hangers to kick out every time. So it worked like that. It felt like a match where, watching it live, yeah, it may be hokey, but they're just so into it, you almost like don't care. They're like an amazing atmosphere to be a part of. Whilst at home, maybe you just go, it's hokey. Yeah. But just looking at that crowd, like, they were so hot for the finish afterwards. I can't lie. It worked. It clearly worked. Look at the crowd. But Mark Briscoe wasn't out to cause distraction. Like, the logic of that, meaning that Bryce never rang for the bell, stopping Max getting a win the exact same when he did over Briscoe. And then when he wakes up, he sees that Hangman's leg is on the ropes and just goes, his foot's on the ropes. He must have been on for the 3. He's like, Bryce, you've been unconscious for like 3 minutes. He could have put that leg up at any point. But that's what we're going with here. That's what we're going with here. The O2 unglued as Max's cheating finally caught up with him, clocked with the contract as the ref threw Friedman's latest weapon away. Everyone up at their feet as the hangers call and buckshot for the emphatic win. I definitely was sat there going, oh, this is hokey. But at the same time, I was also enjoying it and having fun, and the O2 became so alive for that finish, though. The hokiness clearly worked. It clearly got them fully behind Hangman. Which takes us to the lights out steel cage. Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Gabe Kidd, and the Young Bucks versus Will Ospreay, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and Darby Allin. I love how the atmosphere just completely shifts and bubbles when they turn the lights off before these, like crazy chaos in the best way. Darby Allin's first match back after climbing Everest, and he's the fittest man on his team. Neck surgery Will, no knees Tanahashi, diverticulitis Kenny. Hopefully he's going to stay fit, Ibushi. A list of not medically cleared wrestlers trying to stop the Death Riders. A sweet love letter from Windsor for her Billy, before an emotional Will soaking the crowd's love too. Before the opposite of that for the Young Bucks, unless you count the British love to sing Mbop. The lads immediately brawled all over the cage before we got a flying Sasuke Will and a full rotation dive Darby, and a great pop for Young Bucks and the Golden Lovers having a wee stare down, using their flow and dual Asai moonsault to distract us as a Darby Allin and Mox bit unfolded and they temporarily handcuffed to each other. Hey, we start with fun like that and Kenny moonsaulting with a trash can. Sorry, we're in England, I can actually say moonsault with a bin. But yeah, fun spots like that or the inventive Young Bucks spots, it's all fun and games till someone gets a fork in the ear. It's like, oh no. And my favourite part about that is I wrote that whole segment as Kenny was doing the moonsault with a bin bit. I'm being like, there's gonna be a fork. I wrote fork in the head. I was not expecting what came later. We'll get to it. The weapons bag for the Young Bucks actually just contained jelly bears, or I think they're called gummy bears in America. And yes, a proper laugh as Nick took a vertical head bump onto them, then shoving them into Matt's mouth like they did Thumbtack Spot, and for a kick from Ibushi to send them spat out flying. I'm all in on silly nonsense like that. It did feel very AEW afterwards to go straight from Matt and Nick sweeping the bears away to Ospreay writhing with blood dripping down his face. And Crash Dummy Darby is still just insane to watch. Claudio overhead ran across the ring and launched the lad out into the cage wall. Love the sequence of Tanahashi dodging all the baddies, bar Moxley in the immediate aftermath of that too. Darby was already bleeding from the ear as the Swiss man duct taped him to a chair, and there was that fork, just fully into Darby's earlobe, like, what the fuck? What the fuck, Darby? Did something happen in the mountains, Darby? Are you okay? Things didn't get better for Darby. A table with barbed wire out at the same time as the two-story table tower was constructed outside the cage. The bastards even teased putting Tanahashi through the barbed wire table. Tanahashi? Yeah, Tanahashi. But it was Mox who ate the barb. Hey, he likes it. He can have it. Speaking of liking things, the guys all had to stop Tanahashi from climbing up a ladder, instead letting Will do his moonsault off the top of the cage. Kenny and Gabe relived their Wrestle Kingdom bout from early this year, but only just for a minute, because that's when we got everybody charging in. Love the sequence of everyone doing moves onto all of the aprons, which led into Mox and Omega winding back the clock. Then Mox, Yuta and Darby were all up on the top right corner of our cage. An innocent Wheeler crashed onto the Japanese announce desk and poor Elder Desperado's lap. That was the calm before the Darby Allin. Mox under one story of the tables. Darby looked up and climbed. Marina saved her stable leader. Then Nottinghamshire lad Gabe Kidd joined up on the cage. Please don't die from the O2. And they both fell through the tables. Omega and Ospreay back together again for that amazing one-winged Angel Hidden Blade combo. But the final cheer came for Tanahashi, the legend allowed to finally climb high and flow with a high fly flow. We wanted to have one last cheer with Tana afterwards, but the end of the show was always meant for Ospreay to soak in. But never trust the trademarks logo. Death Riders with the post-match beating, all focused around the head too. All our heroes banging on the outside of the cage, the ops running out to just bang on that cage. Kota Ibushi trying to charge through the door and then just collapsing on the outside. As Mox stomped on the Essex man's neck with that chair wrapped around, just like All In. Treated like death and serious injury with the medics and stretcher and all. So all of that heat with Ospreay going to be out for a while as he goes and have his surgery. All of that heat transferred back onto the Death Riders. I've really liked where the Death Riders have been at since All In. So as they get this resurgence of heat from this, hopefully they can keep that momentum, and they're in a good place right now. What do they do now? They've become like the big bad again rather than being in the opening tag matches of the shows. I really like them being in the opening tag matches, trying to find that way to just find their momentum again. And this has just been this is like a huge boost. Even though they lost, they did this afterwards, so they're going to have a lot of heat again. But anyway, yeah, that was Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door was interesting because I didn't hate any of the matches. I really enjoyed the women's match, like Takahashi versus Fletcher as well. But there weren't really many, it wasn't any matches where I'm like, AEW have done it again. You have to see this incredible, one of the best matches you've seen, or this match of the year or something, or whatever. There was no matches like that, as in the insanely high bar that AEW have set. There was no match where I was kind of calling for it like that. Like if I'm going to watch anything back from this show, it's probably just going to be the women's four-way. That was the only one where I was just fully engaged and had a great time from start to finish. Everything else, like nothing really rose into that insane level, which is a compliment to AEW. That's the bar they've set. The bar is so incredibly high when instead of putting on an all-timer incredible show, they instead put on a great show. So it's like I'm not really complaining. Don't confuse like critique and analysis for full-on complaining. That's not really what's happening here. I still had a good time. I still enjoyed the show, but I didn't love the show. Yeah, I think everyone loved Bozilla though. So Tony, keep tabs. Keep tabs. But I mean, that brings me to the end of the review. Fair to say, I have not figured out how I'm going to be doing these things. It was like, how do I actually watch 2-week shows and then do a pay-per-view and get it out by the end of a Monday? But I'll be back this time next week to talk about AEW, Dynamite and Collision. Following on from this show, we'll see where everything is going as AEW do their little reset to go into the next pay-per-view, where everyone's angry at Moxley and the Death Riders. Oh, we've been here before. Can they now hit it home? Can they take this home? Can they do it well? What's the stipulation going to be for the fight? All that jazz. But thank you for listening, liking, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never taking it for granted. I'll be back this time next week to talk about AEW, so we can all enjoy it and just soak in on this thing we're enjoying. I'll find a closing out thing. I found it for the E. I could find it for AEW. It's not there yet. I did have a conversation with my brother of being like, oh yeah, they're not going to be at the Fulham game because they're running a show at the O2. too. And both of us realised we don't know London geography. It's like, oh, I don't actually know where Fulham is. Like, O2, we got that. No idea where Fulham actually is. Where is it? London, yeah, but where in London? London's huge. It's like, I don't fucking know. Turns out they're on, like, opposite sides of, like, East and West. It's like a full hour's difference, so no way that the Khans were going to be able to be at the Fulham match and the Forbidden Door show. I don't think Shad was at the Fulham match. It kicked off at 4:30, like, at the same time that the pre-show started. So he could have been at the Fulham match and then turned up for later. Shad was in the crowd for Hangman MJF. Anyway, I'll be back this time next week. So with that, I bid you adieu. Ta-ra.